mute their mute, so that way Council Member Zerwas and Veteran can do our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Council Member Zerwas. That will be the last time you're doing it for a council meeting, so it makes me kind of sad. All right, I'm going to read our statement. Good evening. We greatly appreciate our staff, council, and residents adapting to our teleconference format due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Tonight's meeting will be held under Minnesota State Statute 13D.021 that permits a public body to hold a meeting via telephone or other electronic means due to COVID-19 pandemic. For members of the public, the meeting is being live streamed on the City of Wyoming's YouTube page. The Wyoming City Council meeting will be recorded as part of the public record. After each agenda item is read and staff gives a report on the agenda item, I will call upon each council member individually if they have questions on that particular item. If you wish to make a motion or second a motion, please state your name first. All votes on all items will be complete by roll call to meet the standard for the state statute 13D.021. All right, with that, Mr. Linwood, do we have anybody for open forum tonight?
Mayor, we do not tonight.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to agenda item number 1, consider approving the minutes of the regular meeting of the Wyoming Minnesota City Council for December 1st, 2020. If there are no questions or comments, do we have a motion to approve?
Member Schilling, so moved.
Right, we have a first by Member Schilling. Do we have a second?
Member Zerwas, second.
Member Zerwas makes that second. Roll call, please. Member Zerwas.
Aye.
Member Luger.
Aye.
Member Schilling.
Aye.
Member Yeager.
Aye.
And Mayor Iverson is aye. It is approved. Number 2, consider the minutes of the special meeting of the Wyoming, Minnesota City Council for December 2nd, 2020. If there are no questions or comments, do we have a motion to approve?
Member Schilling, so moved.
Member Schilling makes the first. Do we have a second?
So moved. Member Luger.
We have a second by Member Luger. Roll call, please. Member Zerwas.
Aye.
Member Luger.
Aye.
Member Schilling.
Aye.
Member Yeager.
Aye.
Mayor Iverson is aye. It is approved. We'll move on to the consent agenda. That would be item number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Does anybody wish to pull an item from the consent agenda for further discussion? Seeing that nobody wants to pull an item, we do need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. Member Luger.
Member Luger makes the first motion. Do we have a second?
Member Schilling, make the second.
Member Schilling makes the second. Roll call, please. Member Zerwas.
Aye.
Member Luger.
Aye.
Member Schilling.
Aye.
Member Yeager.
Aye.
Mayor Iverson is an aye. It does pass. The next on the agenda is receipts of reports for officer boards, commission, and department heads. That would be 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14 on the agenda. Does anyone wish to pull one of those reports or any of those reports for further discussion? No? All right, we'll go ahead and move on to communications. Does anybody wish to hear more on agenda item number 15? No, we'll move on to 16. And I believe Ms. Dumas, you're gonna recap us on the Wyoming Food Drive No Hunger November, Anonymous Santa Toy Drive, and the virtual tree lighting.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of council. Staff just wanted to provide an update following the tree lighting ceremony that happened on December 5th. This event has become a really important part of the Wyoming community, and this year needing to take it virtual brought some concerns to make sure that we could still capture some of that community spirit. And I think that we've done a really good job of achieving that with the circumstances that we're dealing with this year. So the tree lighting event kind of was comprised of a couple different components. The first was the food and resource drive that we did. The city ended up collecting approximately 3,000 pounds of food for donations that contribute to offering 2,400 meals to community residents. So that's a very significant donation for the Family Pathways food shelf that we were able to donate to, and they were very grateful for the donations that we were able to provide for that. So we were really excited about the amount of involvement that we got from the Wyoming community and the impact that we were able to make through that donation. We also wanted to give a shout out to the Santa Claus with the fire department event. We had 5 different Santa Clauses traveling around Wyoming that day, and we're able to hit every single street in the city. There were opportunities for kids to come out and grab a picture, as well as to donate toys to a anonymous toy drive. And we had more donations this year as a part of that event than we have ever had before. It was a really significant response. And you can see there's a picture in your report that shows the amount of toy donations that were collected through that event. And then finally, the tree lighting video that we put together that brought together some people who've participated in the tree lighting event in the past. And as well as highlighted some of these different components of what we did as a part of this event. That went out in addition to a live stream, which had a very significant response on our social media. I apologize, it looks like the formatting in the report got a little messed up, but as of Friday when this was put together, there were over 12,000 views of the video on our social media page. So we're really excited with that feedback and engagement on that event. And I'll stand for questions.
All right, I'll go around the room for questions. We'll start with Member Schilling.
Actually, I have no questions. I would just like to say good job to Wyoming. It was huge. It was very well received, and I actually got some compliments from my former city of Ely saying how nice of a job, because we shared it on social media. A lot of them up there watched it. So great job, everyone, all around.
That's, I love the mayor of Ely, so that's kind of fun. All right, we'll do Linda. Mayor Yeager, I'm sorry, Member Yeager, do you have any questions?
No questions.
All right, and then we have Member Luger.
I don't have any questions, but I echo what Member Schilling said. This was awesome. The weather was beautiful on the day that we did the day that the food drive was happening in front of Bruce's. The tree lighting ceremony, I mean, the lighting looks gorgeous. And so I think that's a lot to be proud of. And I really appreciate all the hard work that public safety, public works, and city staff admin put into it. Nice job.
All right, and Member Zierwas.
I have no questions, but I'd like to also say that the displays over in the park are just beautiful. Good job.
Yeah, I agree with everything that was said. It was just a great day for the city of Wyoming, or the residents of Wyoming, the whole entire day, from the start of Santa to the end of the tree lighting. So it doesn't just take one person, it takes a whole bunch of people. And that's what I love about our staff and our council and our residents. It takes everybody. So great job, great job. All right, we will move on to new business, which is number 17 on our agenda. To consider resolution 20-12-120, a resolution approving the purchase of a 2021 fire grass rig from Rosenbauer America for the amount of $135,317. And I believe Chief Hoppy is going to speak on that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and City Council. So we have a proposal up in front of you to replace our 2001 F-350 pickup truck that has been converted to a grass rig. It's 20 years old, certainly having some issues with some of the suspension on it and the front axles and everything else. The vehicle isn't really designed to carry constant weight. It's traditionally a pickup truck, just a 1-ton with a little heavier suspension, but not really designed for the type of use that it has. And so being that 20-year mark is also kind of our standard for when we replace these type of service vehicles. And this year we're going to be replacing it, if approved, with an F550, which is certainly capable of carrying significantly more weight. It'll actually increase our water capability on that truck from 100 gallons to 500 gallons, and then also come with the capability to dispense foam. It's got a little bit more clearance for off-road use, which is that, that's a wildland vehicle, fire vehicle. So the off-road component is very important. It's also in its primary use for off-road fire, grass fires, and wildland to support our walkers, our fire walkers and their backpacks. That's how we keep them supplied as we work on grass fires and whatnot. So the truck is significantly, it's almost a 2-ton truck compared to a 1-ton truck. Part of that modification, we get a wider stance on the tires, which gives us a lot more float ability on soft soil. So flotation, water capability increase, just overall built for this specific type use. One of the challenges that we're going to be faced with in 2021 is the manufacturer that builds the cab and chassis portion of it, Ford, is going into a retooling of their Super Duty line. We saw this with our police SUVs last year, that when that happens, we see a significant shutdown period for being able to acquire those cab and chassis for building. When it happened with our squad cars, we lost, the full year of being able to purchase, but even in 2020 with the COVID and retooling, even that we ordered in January, didn't see our squad car till just last month, so 11-month lead time. This vehicle takes a little bit longer to build because of the type of vehicle it is, so we want to get this purchase in right away in end of December or first week of January, so we get on the production list for Ford before they cut those production lists off. Which would delay us another 6 months or longer beyond the normal 6 to 8 month build time. So it's in front of you in late December. It is an approved item for 2021. Even though we're authorizing the purchase of it and to begin the build, this is still a product that we probably would not see till late third or early fourth quarter by the time we acquire the cab and chassis and send it over to the vendor for a build out. So we certainly want to get this in front of the council sooner rather than later. The truck total cost with cab and chassis build out is $135,317. That is a life expectancy of 20 to 25 years on this particular product or vehicle. It has been pre-budgeted for starting in 2019, 2020, and again, the balance in 2021. So we have been preparing for this, budgeting and setting funds aside for the 3-year cycle so that we can pay for this in cash when we take delivery. So I'll stand for any questions.
Chief Happy, I'm going to start. I just have a couple questions. The first one would be, is this bigger than the one lengthwise and width-wise than what we currently have?
So it's a little bit longer, but not by much. It is. So if you look at the diagrams that we sent, you can see there's like a half cab. So it's a cab and a half rather than a single cab. And so that's about the distance length longer. So it will fit in our current spot that we have allocated for the grass rig. It is slightly wider as well. But again, it's in a stall that can accommodate it for this grass rig.
And we don't have any control over the size, correct? I mean, this is the size they build it and.
Well, we currently use an F350, so it's a standard pickup truck with a little heavier suspension. You see a lot of people use them just for daily drivers. That's what we currently use. It is a slightly shorter and a narrower stance, but not by much. But the real difference is what, how the vehicle is built, the cab and chassis. You're talking about a vehicle capable of carrying maybe 11,000 pounds compared to what we're looking at purchasing being almost 20,000, just short of 20,000 pounds, so double the weight, which adds to that safety component when transporting. But it gives us a lot more capability, not only with water supply and storage and delivery, but also with the ability to take it off-road safely with, a little wider flotation tire and higher ground clearance because this vehicle is specifically designed for wildfire, grass fire, so it does require some off-road usage.
Okay, and then what do we do with the current one that we have?
The current one will be auctioned off. So the pickup truck, we're actually going to separate the slide-in unit. So the way the current one is built, it's a standard pickup truck, and it's got an aftermarket slide-in tank with a kick motor. And that's the other thing that I think is really significant about what we have and what we're going to is the current one has basically a 10-horse Honda motor that it runs off of. The one that we're going to go to is actually driven. It's a PTO driven off of the engine of the truck, so we don't have to worry about fueling and starting and everything else as long as the truck running the pump works. So both of those, the truck and the sliding unit will be separated and sold at auction separately to revenue us the highest dollar for them.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Council Member Yeager, questions?
Yes. How many off-road grass fires have there been since the Carlos Avery fire?
I don't have an exact number for you, but I can tell you that we've been on maybe a couple of year consistently, but that number also varies.
Okay. And since this vehicle is so highly specialized, what types of support services will the vehicle be able to provide?
The primary function of the vehicle is wildlife fire. That's the primary function. The secondary function is to support our medical response. So in the event that we have a high ambient medical need, that we can put 4 people in a cab of the rescue truck. And if we need beyond that, this is the second call vehicle. But it also during fire events, if we need to pull out the trailer that's sitting alongside City Hall, the vehicle is capable of doing that, but also transporting just staff in general. So even though the primary function is off-road grass fire, this one serves as a secondary support vehicle for everything from medicals to standard fire.
And how often do you think it will be used for support services?
Again, I guess you're trying, it's difficult to quantify exactly, how often does that truck leave the barn or not. In the 20 years that the current truck has, the current grass rig that we have has about 45 to 50,000 miles on it. So that would give you some remnants of how often that truck goes off. So it's certainly one of the support vehicles that provide to all of our functions. But can I say it goes out once a week or 10 times a week? It just really depends on the type of calls that we get, and we certainly can't predict them.
Okay. And how many other support vehicles does the fire department have?
They currently have 2 SUVs, which are the chief's assigned command vehicles that respond directly to fires from the chief's house. This one would be a support vehicle in conjunction with the rescue vehicle, but they're designed for very different primary function purposes. But outside of the command vehicles, which are really to give us a rapid response from our responders home for our command staff, we only have 2 support vehicles, one which would be the rescue truck and the other which would be the grass rig.
Okay. With this specialized vehicle, how will it do with on-road support, since the tires and everything are designed for off-road?
It's certainly not designed specifically for off-road. It's designed to be used both on and off-road, but compared to the normal standard vehicle that you would buy off of the lot, there are modifications which then make it more capable off-road. So it can be used on or off-road, certainly not built specifically for one or the other, but to cross.
Okay. Do the surrounding fire departments have similar rigs?
Yeah, I think the department that probably most rembrances this particular vehicle would be Lindstrom has one very similar to this. I think Stacy has one similar, and so does Forest Lake. It's kind of becoming an industry standard for departments that have a lot of open space like we do and wildland that we. It's a very similar type of vehicle that Rosenbauer builds regularly. Okay,
and how much of the city is wildlands? Oh, excuse me.
I don't, right off the top of my head, I'd have to look those numbers up. Maybe Fred can help me with that, but I think we're about 20%, if I'm not mistaken off the top of my head, Mr. Weck. Does that sound, I don't think Fred's with us, about 20%.
I think approximately, I think that's about right.
Okay, and how much of these wildlands are going to be lost due to future development?
Well, there's certainly a large portion of our community that, in my experience, was undevelopable, whether they have, natural wetland areas or grassy areas that are undevelopable based on the soil, or that are protected through the Carlos Avery Reservation and whatnot. So there's certainly a large portion of that 20% that we're talking about that still will be undevelopable and have a need for this type of vehicle even beyond the 20-25 year expectation.
Okay. Is there a less expensive alternative? I mean, $135,000 seems to be a lot of money.
Certainly there is a less expensive option. We can go back to similarly what we're doing. The cab and chassis portion of a standard 350 truck is not that much less than the 550, but you're going to lose significant capability with not only the ability to haul water. So now we reduce, again, our tank size and water capabilities. And then we lose that PTO functionality if we go to a lesser model. But the biggest concern is really the capability of taking water off-road. Unlike a normal structure fire, we have multiple vehicles that are responding, and we can carry as much as 5,000 or 6,000 gallons of water to start that suppression. If we get the wildland, or when we get the wildland fires, it's imperative that we have a quick response, because those can quickly get out of control based on the nature of the fuel, meaning the grasses and the trees and whatnot that are in mass. It's not necessarily easy to control. So it's imperative that we get have the ability to get to those remote areas quickly and suppress them as quick as possible. And one of the main limitations that we have is the amount of water that we can get off road. Unlike a structure fire where we have multiple vehicles, we're really restricted to not only this particular vehicle, but our UTV, which carries even significantly less water. So even under the extreme circumstances where only we can get to it by foot or by UTV, this vehicle supports both of those other functionalities as far as fire walkers and the UTV access. So certainly we can kind of go lesser, buy a new slide-in unit, buy a new truck, but the cost of that, you might save the 25 or 30,000, but you're going to significantly reduce the capability of the vehicle, which I don't think is what we want.
Okay. Mike, after talking to people and whatnot, I'm not comfortable with such a highly specialized piece of equipment, with the money involved and the amount that we use it if it's just a couple of times a year. I'm wondering, is like, this seems to be the Lexus, and maybe a Camry could serve the same purpose, and I'd like to see the city explore something a little less specialized, and I'm concerned about that it's so specialized that it loses something in versatility when it's not being used as a grass rig. And that's all.
I can comment on that. Even with a lesser unit, and we look at the unit that we currently have with the pickup truck with a slide-in unit, even with that design, that slide-in unit consumes the entire bed of the pickup truck, and it puts us into the exact same position that this vehicle would relative to versatility. If you're talking about secondary usages, So even reducing, the amount of it in the cost doesn't increase the versatility for the secondary use, but as a result, it significantly limits and restricts our ability to use it as the primary function of the vehicle. And that's where the specialty of it comes from, is being able to use it to its maximum capability for the primary function in which the vehicle is designed.
Okay, yeah, I said, I know we need a grass rig. I'm I have some concerns with this, and I'd love to hear the rest of the council's questions.
Chief Hoppy, can you address the safety concerns, please? I would think that not having as much water means that our fire department, our firemen and women could be in jeopardy because there's not as much water on there to be able to fight those flames. Is there any other safety features on that as well? Obviously, if our rig was, what did you say it was, 20 years old? 20?
Yeah, so this vehicle has got far more capability than our existing fire truck. I think one of the biggest safety issues just for the firefighters themselves is the truck that we're running at max capacity all the time, meaning with the weight of the water and what the truck is designed to carry, we're running it at max capacity, which in and of itself in emergency response is not ideal. It's far less than ideal. The ability to stop, move it directionally, especially when you're talking about a liquid container that's, your load is liquid, so it's moving. So that would be one issue that we'd see from a safety concern, is going to a much heavier cab and chassis designed to carry twice the weight load. We're going to be operating at, less than what max capacity is, and that's a safety issue and just in the response. Secondly, this other vehicle does give us a number of other functionality of being able to service the fire from both sides of the vehicle rather than just the one. It gives us 4 times the water capacity compared to our other grass rig. It has foam injection, which is very useful in extinguishing fire quickly, is spraying it with foam rather than just simply water, because it essentially smothers the fire rather than just trying to put it out with liquefied. It also has a forward-facing cannon on it, so we can use it from a remote control from inside the cab with the operator to get closer to maybe hotter fires, rather than sending our personnel out there. We got the capability of using that fire cannon on a remote, so we can direct it, from inside the cab. So it has a significantly more capability, but also safety features on it. From a response in route, but also from a safety perspective of servicing our fire walkers and our firefighters.
Okay, so I don't live by a grassy, I have trees, but not a grassy wooded area. The majority of council does not, but I do know over on Kettle River, we've got some new development coming in, and we spent a lot of time looking at the property and the fields behind them and all the trees and the wetlands that are back there. I also remember the fire came very close to my parents' house, the Carlos Avery fire. I can't remember how many years it is, but came very close to my parents' house over by Carlos Avery. So I do know that burned for a long time. And correct me if I'm wrong, but a rig such as this could probably contain it a lot faster than what we've had previously. So we've got some time savings in that as well. For me personally, we have to protect all our residents, and we have quite a few that are in wooded areas that butt up to Carlos Avery. So,
the thing about a wildland fire compared to a structure fire is a structure fire is more contained. A wildland fire is very fluid, meaning that the fluid, the part of the combustible fluid of the grasses and everything else, not only does it have a front line, but when that wind picks up and it starts moving it, through a field or through a forest or through those wildland, and it could be, Carlos Avery, it could be along I-35. We see issues there as well. It's any place where, the grass is or the brush is dry and in volume that it becomes of greatest risk. So, having a vehicle capable and specifically designed to address those issues is significant for our community because we do have a large volume of it, not only in Carlos Avery, but scattered throughout all of our neighborhoods and parks. So that, this is not a Cadillac of grass fire rigs, as some may have described, but we certainly don't want to go to a Yugo either. And try to use something and build something that really is not designed for the specific use that we need it for, because I think there is a consequence and risk to that as well.
Yeah, I would agree. We need to keep our residents safe throughout the whole city. All right, so I'm going to go to Member Schilling.
I really don't have any additional questions. Thanks to both Mayor and Linda. I read through this pretty well. I mean, we're increasing our water capacity. We're increasing our footprint for capability of driving over that. I know the difference between the two vehicles as far as just the vehicle itself. So I don't have anything additional at this point. The only question I had is I think you had already touched on it, Chief, is it in the budget that we budgeted for the replacement of this vehicle?
That is correct. It's correct. We've been budgeting for a 3-year cycle to purchase this vehicle.
Okay, thank you. That was all the questions I had.
All right, we'll go to Member Zerwas.
I don't really have any questions. I'm in favor of this beefed up truck, though. I know what Chief Hoppy's talking about. Be a lot better with that bigger truck. A lot more capacity for water.
Thank you. And we will go to Member Luger.
I also have the question just about confirming that this had been budgeted for and planned for. But I guess I had my other question is, and I'm not sure if Chief, if you can quantify this, but when we look at the cost of this and we look at the cost of the potential damage with the rapid spread of grass fires to homes, to businesses, and the damage that would be done in general in the community based on our mix of grassy areas as well as residential areas and business areas. I mean, I can think of a few just off the top of my head. What are we looking at in terms of, the cost benefit analysis of this? Like if we have 1, maybe 2 grass fires where we have fewer resources and it's less efficient of a task to contain it, what are some of those costs related to the damage that gets done?
Paul, you're on mute.
As you guys know, I'm kind of an analytical guy, and I try to always look at it from multiple perspectives when we're spending this kind of money. And when we undersize a primary function vehicle, and when I say undersize, we don't buy the right cabin chassis, we don't build it the proper way. There's just purely a repair cost that comes with it. And when we start talking about heavy duty trucks and we start talking about replacing steering components, there would be the first safety issue we talk about, is just getting it to the scene safely. And when we start replacing steering components and axles and drivetrain and 4-wheel drive joints and knuckles on the front end and so forth and whatnot, because we're simply just using the vehicle at max capacity, there is purely just over a 20 or 25 year life, you will cover the cost of that additional 30,000 just in the repairs because you're undersizing the vehicle for its functionality. We can look at, we're certainly not a California where the wildfire takes off and it burns, $1 billion worth of residential property. But I think what we overlook sometimes is if it is in the field component of it, there's crop loss, if it spreads into somebody's farmable field. There's certainly the loss of mature trees and vegetation that I don't necessarily think you can put a dollar value on when it scars, across a wildlife and you lose, some of that. So, have we seen it to a point where we've had wildfires, rage out of control and take personal property? We really haven't experienced that in my time that we've been here, but there's certainly always that potential. And I think the response that we give help protect that loss of personal property. And that's why we're very intentful when we look at our equipment that we tried to be cognitive of the cost, but we certainly want to build a functionality of a vehicle to prevent that catastrophe from happening.
Thank you.
All right, Chief Hoppy, one last question. You do a lot of training. Obviously, you're the public safety director and fire and police. And when you go to design this, can you tell me or tell us where you draw the experience from, or how you know what it is that we need? I know you do training. I don't know if there's classes, but if you can maybe just enlighten us on how you come up with what is needed specifically for our city. And you're still on mute.
So one of the places we draw on the most is the experience of our firefighters. You know, they're the first line people out there. They're going to tell us what are the challenges of the equipment that we have that are making our job more difficult to do. You know, we also reach out to our surrounding agencies and departments that have already gone through this process, and we learn from them as well. What is it about the vehicle that really is servicing you well? What things did you add that maybe you wouldn't have, or what things should you have added that you shouldn't have, because you've already got a vehicle similar to this and you've used it in the field. So we lean on that experience as well. And we certainly take the advice of our vendors who build, Rosenbauer being one of our community members. They're an enormous resource for us because as the second largest fire engine manufacturer in the world, they're building these on a regular basis. So they have probably the most institutional knowledge as to really what's servicing the industry well for a specific type of use, and so we look at, this isn't just, hey, this would be a neat thing to have because we saw it in a magazine. It's simply, what challenges do we have with the equipment we have? And if we're going to purchase a new piece of equipment, what challenges can we overcome by purchasing the right piece of equipment? Reaching out to our neighboring departments, what's working well and what isn't, and what modifications should we make to overcome what you've been faced, and reaching out to the vendor and saying, through your context and experience globally, what is the right vehicle for this specific application? So we certainly look at more than just one avenue for getting to coming up with those designs.
All right, thank you. So if there are no further questions, we need a motion to approve Resolution 20-12-120, a resolution approving the purchase of a 2021 Firegrass rig from Rosenbauer America for the amount of $135,317. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved by Member Zerwas.
Member Zerwas makes the first. Do we have a second?
Member Luger will second.
Member Luger makes the second. Roll call, please. Member Yeager?
Nay.
Say that one more time. You said no?
Yeah.
Thank you. Member Schilling?
Aye.
Member Luger?
Aye.
Member Zerwas?
Aye.
And Mayor Iverson is an aye. It does pass. We'll move on to number 18, to consider policy 20-02, an emergency sick leave policy for the City of Wyoming employees. Mr. Linwood or Ms. Dumas will be taking this.
Mayor, I'll be taking this item. Mayor Iverson, members of the council, we're presenting to you tonight an emergency sick leave policy. We adopted a similar policy back in March, at our March 17th, 2020 City Council meeting. And the idea on this policy is essentially to give our employees an ability to have an emergency sick leave balance with if they were exposed to COVID-19 or were infected with COVID-19. Essentially, when we passed this back in March of 17, we did it with the determination that if there was some sort of state or federal funding to cover this, that we would rescind this policy, which is exactly what happened. The FFCRA, or Families First Coronavirus Act, was simply put in place shortly after, and then we did rescind this policy at our first meeting in April. The FFCRA is a federal program that essentially allowed for that up to 80 hours for our employees to utilize for then relation to being exposed or contracting COVID-19. Currently, the FFCRA is set to expire on December 31st, 2020. And currently, the federal government has been working on updating this, but as of today, as we speak during this council meeting, there has not been anything put in place. We're hopeful that we'll have a new law prior to January 1st, 2021. And once again, once that is put in place, we would recommend to the city council that we rescind this policy once again. The policy essentially allows for an employee to utilize and to take a negative sick bank if they have exhausted all of their current sick leave, comp time, or vacation hours. And then they would be able to utilize this on the discretion of city staff if there was something that we wanted to do. We feel that this is a good plan to have in place in case that there isn't anything in place for our employees if they were to get sick and had exhausted all those banks. You're seeing this in most cities that they're doing something like this, and essentially following that same game plan, waiting for the federal government to come out with that new response act for that FFCRA. So with that, I'll stand for any questions.
All right, Member Schilling, do you have any questions?
I do not have any questions.
Member Zerwas?
No questions.
Member Yeager?
No question.
Member Luker?
No questions.
And I have none either. So we need a motion to approve policy 20-02, an emergency sick leave policy for the city of Wyoming employees.
So moved. Member Luger.
Member Luker makes the first. Do we have a second?
Member Schilling, second.
Member Schilling makes the second. Roll call, please. Member Zerwas?
Aye.
Member Luker?
Aye.
Member Schilling?
Aye.
Member Yeager?
Aye.
Mayor Iverson is an aye. Number 19, to consider policy 20-04, a first responders exposure to COVID policy. Mr. Linwood, is that you or Chief Hoppy?
I think Ms. Dumas is going to start on this, and I think Chief Hoppy may have some points to add to it or with council questions, but Assistant City Administrator Dumas will start, please.
All right.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. This policy is specifically targeting first responders of the city, and similarly to the policy that was just discussed, this also was approved by the council, or a very similar policy was approved by the council previously as a part of our emergency response. The policy that was previously passed was supplemental to the FFCRA policy and also included a sunset date where the policy would conclude along with the FFCRA. Which is scheduled to end December 31st. So this policy updates that policy, the previous one that the council had put in place, to reflect current guidance by the Minnesota Department of Health in terms of quarantine limits. Mostly what this policy does is it says that in the case that an employee is exposed to COVID-19 on duty, that they would have paid leave for the mandatory quarantine period and not have to take employees' personal sick or vacation time in order to do that mandatory sick leave. And with that, I'll stand for questions.
Sorry. Let's go with Member Schilling.
I do not have any questions. My questions were answered in the memo.
All right. Member Yeager?
Will the quarantine regulations, for lack of a better word, will this policy be updated as the quarantine guidelines change once again?
The policy does state that we will be following Minnesota Department of Health guidelines. So the memo includes what those currently are, but the policy will follow whatever the current guidelines for the Minnesota Department of Health are, as those are updated.
Thank you.
All right, Member Luker?
No questions.
And Member Zerwas?
No questions.
All right, we need a motion to approve policy 20-04, a first responders exposure to COVID-19. Do we have a motion to approve?
Member Luger will make that.
So moved.
Member Luker makes the first and Member Zerwas makes the second. Roll call, please. Member Yeager?
Aye.
Member Schilling?
Aye.
Member Luker?
Aye.
Member Zerwas?
Aye.
And Mayor Iverson is an aye. That does pass. Number 20, to consider policy 20-05, a tablet computer use policy for the City of Wyoming council members. Mr. Linwood?
Yes, Mayor Iverson, members of the council, as we ready the tablets that the city council purchased with CARES dollars, we were in speaking with the League of Minnesota Cities and our legal, it's our best practice to have a policy for the use of that technology, as we also have for all of our employees here at the city. We have a computer use policy that we adopted back in 2017. This policy has a lot of similar components that you would see in that. The main components of it are that user responsibility, ownership, appropriate use, records management, and software on the device. This allows the council to realize those expectations as elected officials of how to utilize the tablet as we, like I said, check those out to the council and what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. As with all of our policies for all of our employees or elected officials, there is a component to read the policy and sign it before we issue that tablet. With that, I'll stand for any questions.
All right. Member Luker, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions. I mean, this sounds very similar to what, for example, public school districts use when they issue school issued Chromebooks or iPads. There's a user policy that goes along with it. And so this does not strike me as controversial. I have no questions.
All right, thank you. Member Yeager.
Could you please clarify section 2.3, where it says if an elected official believes someone has compromised the security of the tablet? Is the elected official the one with the iPad, or is it another elected official thinking somebody else's tablet has been compromised?
I think the intent in 2.3, if an elected official being a council member believes that someone has compromised the security, an event where maybe there was an incident of a malware email or something, some sort of virus or something that was contracted on the tablet, that individual, he or she, that council member, elected official would notify the city administrator or staff that there's something going on with the tablet. That way we could deal with it.
Would this tablet be connected to the home internet?
It would be necessary for if you wanted to access the internet or if you wanted to receive your emails on it, that it would need some sort of wireless data connection, correct?
Okay, and what protections are there should, like you just referenced, malware come to the tablet to stop it from infecting the home network?
What's on there is there are a few different softwares on that staff can utilize to manage that tablet. And then one of the main reasons that staff selected the iPad Apple tablet on this is they're much less likely to have any kind of malware or virus that would be detrimental to the use or compromise the actual tablet or the network of the individual using it on their home network.
Okay. And under 3.2, about a council member turning in their tablet about 14 days before the end of their term, what happens when the last meeting of December falls within less than 14 days? This will happen in 2022.
I think what we put it on essentially as a two-week parameter on that. I think that we could certainly update the policy to establish that after the last meeting of December, if the council was in agreement to that. I think the intent was to essentially that last meeting usually falls about the middle of December, and the expectation was that it would be returned by the end of the year. That way, if it was going to be utilized by a potentially new council member, but that was the intent. If we felt maybe that some verbiage in regards to the last meeting of the year, we could certainly do that.
Okay. And then 3.5, I understand negligence, but what happens if the tablet is damaged through, is an accident, no fault of the council member, or is stolen from a locked house?
I think that's, we have very similar language. that our council was pretty adamant back in 2017 in regards to that negligency. So we've kind of applied it both to our elected officials. I think it's probably a case by case basis. I think it's more or less to, obviously not leave it in a real area where it could be theft or damage could happen. I think we realize that, if a car is broken into, if a home is burglarized, I think that's not really necessarily, that's not being negligent, that's a significant act that took place. So I think we're just asking the council to make sure that they, treat it with care, and like any of our other employees that we would ask for any kind of city device, that you're mindful of where you put it and place it, and that you don't make it easily damaged or stolen.
Okay. Can anything be printed off the printer, off the tablet? I mean, onto my printer. I mean, I think we have Wi-Fi to attach a laptop to the printer, so I can just hit print.
The tablet should have the ability to also connect to a Wi-Fi printer, but secondly, and Ms. Dumas, I believe that there is a connection on those pads that could be an accessory cord, could be connected to hook into a normal printer for printing purposes.
Yes, especially if they're, I don't know the specific plugs required for a corded printer, but there's usually adapters that are usable with iPads.
All right, but I couldn't do this by Wi-Fi.
Yes, you could.
But yeah, either or, I think that was, you're right, the whatever worked best.
Does the League of Minnesota Cities have standard language for this, for cities to use when providing tablets to council members, and did we use them?
They do not. They only offer the computer use policy, which was the original intent of the staff to apply that to the city council. After some deliberation on that, it was discussed and looked at that we'll put something that was more significant to the council. The computer use policy is directed at employees, and technically you are elected officials. In some cases, in statutes, you are employees. In other criteria, you are elected officials. Like I said, this mirrors many of the components of that computer use policy. The computer use policy has many different levels that it would apply to someone, maybe a potentially elected official or a firefighter, and all the way up to a position where you'd be like a public safety director or an assistant city administrator. So there's differing levels on it, but that was the guiding document, really, to look at something that was going to be pertinent to our city council.
Okay. That's all the questions I have.
All right. Sorry, I forgot where we left off. Member Schilling.
No, I read through this. It's very similar to what I deal with in my office. We're carrying around a significant, expensive piece of equipment. It's our responsibility to take care of it. I have no issue with this. I think in this day and age of transparency that we're trying to have, I think it's wonderful for us. And I also feel that it'll make it a little easier for us to get our agendas and footnote these as was presented to us before we did all this. So that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Member Zerwas.
No questions.
All right. I know that I'm in favor of this. In my day job, I have a laptop I carry with me all the time, and it's medical information, and it's, you have to be careful with it. Although medical stuff is HIPAA, so we have some standards in that, but I think it's important. I don't know what city of our size is not using a tablet or a laptop. I just don't know who's not doing digital, especially our size. There's even cities that are a lot less residents than us that are using digital. And it is a part of being in the 21st century, which we've been working on for a long time. So I actually have no questions on that. I don't have a problem with the 14-day 3.2 on there. That's up to council. I think that sometimes we get into the weeds on absolutes, and that can create problems as well. I think staff does a great job with knowing where things are. So I'm fine with it just the way it is. So if a council member has something different than that, it looks like Member Schilling does. No?
No, I actually don't have anything different, but I did want to address the damage policy. I tend to be a klutzy person, so I hope we bought cases. I'm on my third brand new work phone in the last 7 months. But I'm also out on job sites, and my personal phone is shattered on both sides. That's why I refuse to replace it. Because the moment I replace that phone, it's been shattered for almost 2 years. I'll drop it the day I get it. It has happened, so.
Yeah, to your point, Member Schilling, I just paid off my phone and probably not more than 3 days later, I cracked it, the whole entire thing. So
That's what
totally get that. I understand that. So, all right. If there are no further questions, we do need a motion to approve 20, let's see, which one are we on? Tablet policy. So we do need a motion to approve policy 20-05, a tablet computer use policy for the City of Wyoming council members. Do we have a motion to approve? I'll first that. I'll be the first motion on it, so we need a second.
Member Schilling will second.
Second.
All right, we got Member Schilling as a second. Roll call, please. Member Zierwas.
Aye.
Member Luger.
Aye.
Member Schilling.
Aye.
Member Yeager.
Nay.
And Mayor Iverson is an aye. So it does pass. And we will move on to number 21, policy 20-06, a virtual meeting policy for Wyoming City Council members in correlation under in-person meeting or a meeting conducted is not practical or prudent because of a health pandemic or an emergency declared. Mr. Linwood.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, members of council, Minnesota State Statute Section 13D01 requires that all of our meetings must be open to the public, and that 13D.02 provides exceptions, amongst them that an in-person meeting isn't prudent because of a health pandemic or a health emergency. It also states that those should be conducted via telephone or electronic means or an interactive TV. The statute 13D02 sets guidance also for interactive television, and it says that all members of the body and all members of the public wishing to participate can hear and see one another or hear or see the discussions of the testimony. With the pandemic that has been going on and with the issuance of the new tablets to the council, with the investment that we've done, the video conferencing capabilities now available to the city council, and our desire to operate in a manner that's inclusive, interactive, transparent, and as reasonably as possible. We're setting forward this policy that would, during the pandemic, that all members of the council participating in this meeting, wherever their location, can hear and see one another, that follows that state statute, and that all discussion and testimony presented at any location with at least one member is present. The second being that to ensure the council members can adhere to the policy to be heard and seen, they must utilize a city-issued device if they're unable to meet the criteria of being heard and seen. And then members of the public watching the electronic meeting can hear and see the discussion, testimony, and all voids the members of the council. And then any changes in the Minnesota State statute may void or amend this policy. With that, I can stand for any questions.
All right, let's start with Member Schilling. Any questions?
I have no questions.
All right, Member Luger.
I have no questions.
Member Yeager.
Is this policy legal, given that the statute 13D.021 only requires council members to be heard, and that the requirements for interactive TV have not all been met?
It would be legal, and I can certainly let our city attorney, essentially, that we are actually going, we're meeting that criteria, but we're also going a little more in depth and stringent on that in regards to what we're doing, because right now our interactive policy does essentially follow those same guidelines when we are not in a health pandemic, that you have to be able to be seen and heard. Mr. Lunan, I don't know if you have anything that you'd like to add.
I would just note that Councilmember Yeager is technically correct on 13D.021 because of the requirements of the in-person. However, Section 13D.02, Section 13D.021 does provide pretty clear preference that the statute would recommend that councils first choose an interactive television model We understand that these statutes were prepared at a time that sort of predated this video conferencing technology that we have today. And the council has the authority to, in the interest of transparency and ensuring that their meetings are available and as transparent as possible to the public, to adhere to that interactive television requirement, because with the Zoom technology that we now have, all council members can see and hear each other, and particularly in consideration of the investment that the city has made, all council members will now have the technology to be on video conferencing, which we can also record and make immediately available to the citizens, as we're doing right now.
But we will not, is there a council member currently at City Hall?
The policy itself is not a statutory requirement. It's a city policy on virtual meetings, and the policy will be that those meetings have to be conducted via interactive television through computer methods, which the statute permits under 13D.021.
So we don't have to adhere by the reporting standards, like where we have to report all member where each remote site is. We don't have to abide by the part that says if the member has not participated more than 3 times in a calendar year in a remote meeting.
Correct. Correct. Actually, this last year that was amended to remove the 3 times for certain situations, such as the public health crisis. And additionally, I think what you're referring to, Councilmember Yeager, is sort of the allowing members of the public into your home or into your space. That only applies if the council is conducting a regular meeting under 13D.01 and only one member of the council is in a remote location. Here, the council would still be conducting their meetings as the pandemic continues and any additional emergency meetings under 13D.021. They're just now are moving, this policy would move to a more transparent standard that those remote meetings will be conducted via interactive television and video conferencing, so that all members can see each other, all the citizens can see the members of the council during that meeting.
Okay. So since it seems to be kind of fuzzy about following statute, especially the one that says council members need only be heard, does the statutes of that a council may run their meetings as they choose to run their meetings supersede these 2 statutes?
The council can set its meeting policy in a more stringent nature from a transparency standpoint than the statutes require. They can't go beyond that. For instance, we couldn't allow for meetings to be conducted via text message or email. We can't go beyond the telephone, but to require the interactive television, to require the members to be on video conferencing, they're not narrowing the transparency of the meetings. They're actually broadening and making those meetings more transparent, which would be required under the statutes as meetings continue to be conducted under 13D.021. And moreover, it's important to note that this would only apply when the council cannot meet in person and the emergency meeting has to take place. And the reason that this is going into place now, as Administrator Linwood noted, is because all council will have the technology, which wasn't previously available, to do the interactive video conferencing.
Can council members be forced to accept the tablet and sign the agreement?
I suppose if a council member did not want to adhere by the technology policy, then they would not be permitted a tablet.
So that's a no. Council member can decline the tablet. Is that correct?
I would have to review the policy, but the council members are provided the tablets for the best interest of the citizens. But I suppose if a council member was to make a statement that they aren't going to adhere to the technology policy, then they wouldn't be provided the technology.
It's not as much adhering to the technology policy as can a person be forced to sign an agreement?
person can be forced to sign an agreement if there's a condition of that agreement that you're receiving property in exchange for adhering to that.
Right, but if the person does not want the property, can they be forced to take it?
I mean, I suppose the answer to that question is no, you wouldn't be forced to take property.
Okay. And
But that said, the policy that is in place, the policy that's being considered right here notes that that technology is available. And if a person chooses that they don't want to take that technology, then they're choosing that they're not going to be able to participate in the meetings in adherence with the policy that may or may not be adopted by council, which is before the council right now.
so in other words, if a person would be forced to sign the agreement to take the tablet if they wish to participate in the meeting.
The policy notes that it's not an excuse that you can't participate via video conferencing because the technology and the equipment is available to you as a member of council. If a member of council chooses that they don't want the technology, then they need to ensure that there's other means that they can adhere to the video conferencing policy that's going to be put in place if this policy is passed right now.
Okay, so then a council member can then be forced to have a working laptop on their, a working camera on their laptop.
They wouldn't be forced. If they don't have a working camera on their laptop, they would be expected to take the technology that the city makes available to participate.
Well, either way, a council member would be forced to either have a working camera or take the technology and sign for it. Is that correct?
No.
Okay. Okay. Can the city force a council member, excuse me, can a city deny a council member meeting materials or participation at a meeting due to not signing the tablet agreement but having a working camera on their laptop?
No, those meetings, those material, if the member was, if those meetings can be provided technology, or excuse me, if those meeting minutes and items can be provided electronically, they would be.
I just lost
if the
you.
council member were to, can you hear me now?
I can hear you, Tom.
Council can hear you, Tom.
If the council member was to then request those via printed documents, I'm sure that could be arranged with city staff.
Oh, Tom, could you please repeat that? Because you all just froze and I could not hear a word. My computer, over the Zoom part of it, it says that my internet connection is unstable.
Can you hear me now?
Please repeat?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can, yeah.
Okay, could you repeat your question, please?
Okay, can the city deny a council member meeting materials or participation at a council meeting due to not signing the tablet agreement, but provided they have a working camera on their laptop?
No, if the council member is going to participate and adhere to the city policy with regards to meetings, then no, then they would be able to participate.
All right.
I think we perhaps lost Councilmember Yeager.
I'm not sure. I don't think there's not, the connection looks good right now. Usually we can see on everyone's screen if there's a bad connection, so I'm not sure.
I'll go ahead and ask some questions then.
Okay, so I'm back. Apparently Zoom cut out and then Zoom came back. And it's not.
Okay. Member Yeager, are you still with us?
Yeah, apparently it came. Yeah, this is nuts. It's, now I still seem to, now I see you all, but Zoom just cut out.
Okay,
So I apologize for making you repeat, Mr. Lunan. Who is now muted.
Sorry, that's fine. I know, as I had indicated, if you can, as long as you can participate in the meetings in adherence to the city's meeting policies, then that's fine. It's no difference than requiring the attendance. So,
Okay,
you know, if you need to, we can go back and check the minutes on my other answers, but I think I've sufficiently answered that, and hopefully it's going to be out there for you to see if you need to go back and look at it.
okay, but basically, if I turn the camera on in my computer, I should be fine.
Correct.
Okay,
It's gonna, if the council adopts this policy, then you know the policy is fairly clear about the procedures of how those meetings will be conducted going forward. And so yeah, if you have that camera on, that would adhere as this indicates, I think.
okay, thank you.
all right, Mr. Linden, I have a couple questions. So council would adopt this policy. What happens? We do have a council member code of conduct. What would happen if this is not followed by a council member, the policy set forward?
Mayor Iverson, I would have to review the code of conduct and take a hard look at this policy. As the policy is in place right now, as it would be adopted at this time, the failure to adhere, if a council member is not adhering and they have the ability to, that's the other important part. If the council member demonstrates it's impossible for them to participate video conference, the policy wouldn't apply. But if the ability is there to do the video conferencing and they choose not to, then it would be considered an absence from the meeting, similar to if the member didn't show up to council chambers at the time of the council.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Dumas, how many tablets were purchased?
There are 5 tablets.
And
iPads.
how much were they per tablet?
I would have to look up the exact number. I do not recall it off the top of my head, but I believe each iPad specifically is about $800.
Okay, so so you figure that 5 of them, 1 for each council member, and what's going to happen is we took $1,000 basically, and which could have gone to a business or to a nonprofit. If we don't all use those, right? There'll be an extra one.
There would be an extra one. Yep.
Okay. I believe that all of us 5 members, shake your head if I'm wrong, really believe in transparency, because I know we just got off an election year, and that was kind of one of those key components was transparency within our council meetings. We've been accused of not being transparent enough. I don't understand why it's any on a digital device, being at home, because we're trying to keep everybody safe and healthy. I had COVID, not fun. And so if we can keep people at home and safe, and our council members safe, and our city staff safe, and we have the ability to be able digitally, by television or remotely or whatever, to let our residents see their elected officials, is a good policy. I will also tell you this, as somebody who needs to run these meetings, it is extremely difficult not to be able to see a council member's face or their gestures, because there are times when I don't know if you're done speaking, or you're done speaking or not done speaking, and you have more to add. And that adds confusion into our meetings. So I think it's extremely important, 1, for safety, 2, that our residents know that we are transparent, for those of us who ran on that, and people who say we're not. And it's extremely important that we continue that transparency like we do when we're at City Hall. And the other thing is, I think it also helps with that communication piece. I don't know why anybody would not want this. I have my own personal computer. Mr. Lunan, I do believe that if you're using your own personal laptop, correct me if I'm wrong, if you're using your own personal laptop or your own device or your own telephone, and there is a data request, then you get your laptop and your computer taken, correct?
You would not get it taken, but the file, you would have files that would have to be extracted off of that to respond to that, yes.
Okay, so this is only keeping every single council member, I don't want to say safe, but making sure that there's nothing personal or there's not anything on your personal laptops or phones that are going out that shouldn't be. Because all of us know that the packets go out, but there are some things that that are not meant for the public, and we have to abide by that. So I just think that keeping this safe on a city laptop or digital device is the best way to go, instead of fear that things get disseminated that should not be. So that is my 2 cents on this policy. So with that, I'm going to call for a vote on this, and I'm going to call for the policy 20-06. Oh, I'm sorry, Member Zerwas, you didn't get a chance to talk. Are you still there, Joe? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and read our agenda 21 to consider policy 20-06, a virtual meeting policy for Wyoming City Council members in correlation under in-person meeting or a meeting conducted is not practical or prudent because of health pandemics and emergency declared. For transparency, this mayor makes the first motion. Is there a second?
Member Luger will second.
Member Luker makes that second, and we will go by roll call. Member Yeager.
Nay.
Member Schilling.
Aye.
Member Luker.
Aye.
Member Zerwas.
Aye.
And Mayor Iverson is an aye. It does pass. Mr. Linwood, I would like us to also take a look at our city council or council, our conduct, code of conduct policy as well.
Okay.
All right, number 22, to consider a refund on 2020 on-sale liquor licenses due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the closing of restaurants by governor's order. Mr. Linwood, is this one yours?
Ms. Dumas is going to go through this in regards to our 2 on-sale restaurants and the request from one, so I'll let her take it away.
Sorry, Ms. Dumas, I'm not batting 1,000 on this, so I apologize.
No worries. Thank you, Mayor, members of council. The city has had a request from a restaurant that has an on-sale liquor license to consider a refund due to the governor's orders that have restricted their ability to do on-sale liquor sales this year. So far, according to if the current order is not extended, and that ends on December 18th, the total number of days that restaurants and bars will have not been able to do on-sale liquor sales is 96 days in 2020. So if we that equals a 26% of the year. If we were to take that percentage of the cost of their on-sale liquor license, for one institution, that would be a refund of approximately $828.49. We have 2 institutions in Wyoming which have on-sale liquor licenses. So if both institutions were refunded, that would come at a cost of $1,656.99. There are other communities that have considered this question, and responses to that have been really across the board. Some communities have gone forward with refunds. Some communities have given those businesses a credit on their account to future licenses that they would purchase, and some have denied requests for refunds, mostly with the reasoning that of providing consistency for all businesses that are responding to COVID and the pandemic. It also should be noted that both the institutions in Wyoming that have on-sale liquor licenses did receive aid through the CARES Act, and did have resources allocated to them through that process. And with that, I'll stand for questions.
Ms. Dumas or Mr. Linwood, how many businesses, whether it's on sale liquor license or off sale, whatever, but have other licenses as well? Again, I bring up, I know because I worked at Split Rocks, there's lane licenses, right? And gaming licenses. What other businesses besides the two that you're speaking about have licenses as well?
So there's several licenses that the city offers. We offer a waste hauler license, a massage license, tobacco license, on-sale liquor, off-sale liquor, a gaming license. I think that's all of them. Correct me if I'm missing any.
I think it's tobacco. I think would be
tobacco. Yep. And there are several institutions throughout the city that offer multiple licenses, in addition to ones that just have a singular license. It really depends on what the offerings are at the specific businesses.
Okay. So we could also be presented with this from other businesses to come forward and ask, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I know that I did speak with a business that has other, the same type of business in other cities. And what they did is they put off having to pay their liquor license or a portion of it in spring. So they put that off. I do think, correct me if I'm wrong, we do budget this money. It is figured into our budget, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you clarified that there were CARES money that they did receive. And the state now, I can't remember if the House passed it or not, but I do know Minnesota Senate passed it. I believe the House was going to pass it as well. Will there be more money available to our businesses, if I'm correct on that? Okay. And if we do on these businesses discount their liquor license, we could face other businesses, right? We've kind of said yes to that. And really it would be the residents that would end up, quote unquote, end up, because we budgeted to have a shortfall, correct? Okay.
Yes.
That's all my questions for now, unless I hear some or think of some others as we go through. So I appreciate that. Member Luker.
I have no questions.
All right, Member Yeager.
Oh, building on that, yeah, I was wondering if we were to grant this refund, whether we would start being requested to refund bowling alley fees and gambling and pool tab license fees and any other fees that are associated with the bar and restaurant, even though, like, I know there is one restaurant in Wyoming, they're hustling with a skating rink and a food truck in Forest Lake, and you know, to increase their business. And I also did see in the paper that there's going to be more state aid specifically for bars and restaurants. So I'm not, you know, and given also that this is, you know, money that has been budgeted, I'm not, or is used, I'm not terribly comfortable with this request.
Okay, Member Schilling.
I actually don't have any questions. I know a city where I work foiled with this because we have several down there. And one of the comments was essentially, once you do this, then where do we stop it? But one of the reasons, and I apologize, I did not get a chance to watch last night's meeting because we had an EDA meeting, but I know that one of the things that they were thinking about doing was prorating them because of the days closed. They kind of prorated them is what they did. Getting rid of them, I was never in favor of that. But prorating them, I didn't have a problem because it is a forced closure. So, but again, I don't know what the end result was down at my place of employment. But That's my thought on that.
All right, Member Zerwas.
I have no questions.
So I'm going to ask this to council just to bring this up. Would we entertain the idea of the prorated portion to be paid in 2021? Anybody, go ahead. Member Lugar.
I think that if that were a request on the table, I would want to see the data surrounding that and the impact that that would have on our city budget. I'm not necessarily opposed to that, but I'm hesitant to jump on that ship without knowing more of the effects of it.
Sounds good. Member Schilling.
I will actually agree with Claire on that.
Okay. Member Yeager.
Given what I read today about this, that both House and the House and the Senate both passed Governor Walz's suggestion to give more aid money. I am fairly confident Governor Walz will sign that. I think that money would compensate for any loss of sales for in the 26% of the year that the governor has closed them down. I mean, it's the least the governor can do, considering he ordered the closures, to make it up to them.
Okay, Member Zerwas.
I'm in favor of what Claire and Dennis spoke on.
Okay. All right. I'm expecting a call from Governor Walz anytime soon after that. So, all right, let's go ahead and I guess it sounds like our majority vote is to deny a prorated amount on sale liquor licenses. Quick shake of the head as I'm looking, which is why visuals is so important. Okay. So what I'm going to do is okay, so what we need to do is what's in front of us is to consider a refund on 2020 on-sale liquor licenses due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the closing of restaurants by governor's orders. So it's either a yes or no on this, right? All right, so roll call, please. Member Zerwas.
Nay.
Member Lugar.
Nay.
Member Schilling.
Nay.
Member Yeager.
Nay.
And Mayor Iverson is a nay. So, all right. 23 on our agenda, Railroad Park Design Plan Public Engagement Review. I don't know if Ms. Dumas?
Yes.
Okay, and I'm assuming Mr. Almgeld's going to jump in here as well.
Mayor, members of council, the Park Advisory Commission had advised the city per the direction of City Council on community public engagement regarding the approved draft master plan for Railroad Park. That plan was posted on the city's social media as well as on the city website. In addition, the Park Advisory Commission directed staff to create they called it a mini billboard in Railroad Park that showed the draft plan so that people walking through along the trail or to the park or driving by could see the plan and maybe go and engage with it in person. So providing both that in person as well as digital engagement while also ensuring that we are doing our best to follow COVID guidelines and safety precautions to avoid gathering during this time. So through that process, the city had all of the responses were directed towards a survey that the city posted online. We received 27 responses to that survey. The majority of the responses to that survey were positive. There was a variety though of responses to the master plan. In the discussion at the Park Advisory Commission this past meeting on December 7th, the Park Advisory Commission, after review reviewing the engagement feedback through the process, did recommend that the draft plan be brought back to the City Council as is, with the note that they were interested in adding picnic tables into the green areas on the plan. In your packet, you have the draft master plan as was approved by the City Council previously, as well as all of the comments in the survey and comments that were on all of our social media pages. There were quite a few comments made on those posts in addition to what was actually submitted to the survey. So you see those as well. And with that, I'll stand for questions.
All right, let's go with Member Yeager.
I read the responses. I looked at the park board, what was said. I don't have park board minutes in front of me or what was actually said. I don't have any at this time. My concerns have always been, how are you going to pay for all of it?
I can answer that question. I think we've had this discussion many times, and when we've gotten together, when we first started this, the goal is to raise all the funds. The goals are to get the residents involved, get a committee together, and go to the state. So we're hoping and planning that this is not going to be something that's done with dollars from the city, that it will be all raised or donated through various events and donations from entities.
Okay, will this be, who will comprise this city? I mean, this city, excuse me, this committee. Will it be comprised of park board members? Will it be an independent committee setting up a 501c3 plan, a 501c3 to take and channel those donations?
So can I answer that one as well? So Member Yeager, we've been talking about this for 4 years, and you've asked those questions before. And the biggest thing that we know we had to do was to at least get the plan out there and get the drawing out there so residents and businesses could get behind it and see exactly what and where and get their input. So once council heard the data, once the park board heard the data and was on board with it, now we can move forward with actually making this happen. And we'll need to discuss who's on those committees, who wants to be on it. The city, Mr. Lunan, is going to have to let us know. Do we do a 501c? How does that look? But the first baby steps, we're actually getting the park board on board, getting the residents on board, which obviously they all are. And it's a moving piece. And you went through it with the library, and this is kind of pretty much that same thing. And I expect once we can get together outside of our Zoom calls and we can be at City Hall, we're going to have a lot of participation, and we are going to need to get out there, and all of us, all 5, need to get out there and get into the city and actually really show people how wonderful this Veterans Memorial is going to be, which is what Wyoming deserves. So hopefully,
Mayor Iverson, I don't mean to be a pain about it, but it's just that, yes, the meeting was a number of years ago, and not much movement has come, and I'm, very results oriented. And so baby steps, for a project that is so on board, that supposedly everyone is so on board with, I think we could, in 4 years, move beyond baby steps. And when I ask the questions about paying for this, I get that same answer, but I don't get enough concrete enough to know how we're going to do this. So let's hope, Well,
I'm going to ask this, Member Yeager, and with all due respect, in the last 4 years, what have you done to help get this taken care of? And I think, again, I go back that it will take all 5 of us really involved with all of it. And you were welcome just as much as all the other council members in the last 4 years to take a hold of this as well. So I think that it's extremely important that we are all on board and there are no naysayers on this. So
Okay,
if
Mayor
you,
Iverson, you never asked me nicely, so that's
what was
why.
that?
You never really asked me to participate except to order me. So, yeah. So maybe going forward, things can change.
I'm hoping that that will happen as well. Let's see what happens. Let's go to Member Luger.
Well, just a reminder that Park Advisory Commission meetings are open to the public and council members. And so, if there are questions or about something that's on an agenda that's pushed out to us the week before the meeting, certainly I'm sure staff can answer those questions ahead of time, or folks are encouraged to submit questions for clarification at the meeting. And so, it's open, it's transparent, and we, the Park Advisory Commission welcomes input. Certainly more ideas brought to the table are better than fewer. And so this was discussed, there's a solid discussion around this a week ago, a little over a week ago. I'm not sure what else to add. I think the Park Advisory Commission had a great conversation around it, and this is what their recommendation was to council.
All right, thank you. Member Schilling.
I actually have nothing to add or question.
Good. Member Zeros.
Well, I know this has been talked about a lot the last 4 years, and I'm just glad to see that there's some motion being made that it'll move forward. I'm glad to see it happening.
And Member Zeros, when you're no longer a council member and you're a citizen, I am going to be calling on you to join this committee to help us out on it.
I will be glad to do that.
Great, I appreciate that. Let's see, I don't think, do we need to make a motion on approving the design plan, or where are we at right now with this?
Yeah, if you would make a motion to approve the plan as the master plan for Railroad Park.
Awesome. All right, so we need a motion to approve the Railroad Park design plan public engagement. And I will be the first one to motion to make that motion on that. Very excited that this is going to finally get done here in our city. So do we have a second?
Member Luger will second.
Member Luger makes that second. Roll call, please. Member Zeros.
Aye.
Member Luger.
Aye.
Member Schilling.
Aye.
Member Yeager.
Aye.
And Mayor Iverson is an aye. It's exciting. So, all right. Number 24 on the agenda, to consider a special meeting on Monday, December 22nd, 2020 at 5:30 p.m. to review bargaining proposals from law enforcement legal services known as LELS, the International Union of Operator Engineers Local Number 49, and the review of employment agreements of the police sergeants and the city administrator. Mr. Linwood.
Yes, Mayor Iverson, member of councils. We continue to move forward with our employment agreements for, as the mayor just stated, for LELS, Local 49ers, our sergeants, and the city administrator. We're requesting that council sets a special meeting on next Tuesday, December 22nd at 5:30 p.m. To continue the negotiations on those items.
Okay, and I will assume this will be like we had at the last closed door session, correct?
Correct. We'll be using that same format to make sure that we're adhering to the governor's order and making sure that we still have a confidential meeting as required by some of the bargaining units under statute.
Okay, and will we have our tablets by then?
Yes.
So everybody will be able to participate with that. Okay, awesome. All right. Questions, just shake your head if you have a question. There probably shouldn't be. The biggest thing would be December 22nd, 2020 at 5:30 p.m. So if everybody had their calendars out to make sure that it was okay. So I am going to do just a roll call to make sure that that date works for everybody. So Member Zerwas.
Aye.
You'll be available that day, Joe?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay, good. All right. Member Luger?
Yep.
That date works. All right. Member Schilling?
Works for me. It's already on the calendar.
All right, Member Yeager?
Works for me.
All right, and it is on my calendar as well. So I think we should plan for, council just plan for a longer meeting. There's a lot on the plate here. 25.
Mayor Iverson,
Yes,
if I could please have the council make a motion for that special meeting. I'm sorry, a first and a second, and to approve that meeting date.
sure. All right, so we need a motion to approve the special meeting on Monday, December 22nd, 2020, 5:30 p.m. And all the rest you guys can add in there, right? So do we have our first motion?
So moved.
Member Luger makes the first. Do we have a second?
Schilling will second.
All right, Member Schilling is second, and let's do roll call really fast. Member Yeager,
Aye.
Member Schilling,
Aye.
Member Luger,
Aye.
Member Zerwas,
Aye.
Mayor Iverson is an aye. All right, so number 25, last on the list, and one I would prefer to avoid going with this. So number 25, to consider Councilmember Joe Zerwas for his 16 years of service to the city of Wyoming. I wish it was probably another 16 years, Member Zerwas. I would like to say a few things, but let's kind of go around the room first, and I'd like to kind of be my last words. So Member Luger, is there anything that you would like to say in recognition of Councilmember Zerwas's years of service?
I'm just incredibly grateful for those years of service. Councilmember Zerwas supported and guided a lot of us as starting council members. And it's been an honor to work with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Member Schilling.
I actually second Claire's thing. Mr. Zerwas, you've been a huge help for me as a person that's never been on a council, but been on other boards and commissions. It's been an honor to work with you. I've always loved the fact that you've always been honest and spoke your mind. You don't hold things back. It's going to be sad to see you go. You and I have not always agreed eye to eye on a lot of things, but I'm going to miss you on that wonderful sewer commission because they are so exciting. But I hope we stay in touch, and I hope you reach out when you see things or if you see me get off course. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dennis.
Member Yeager.
Joe, we've been together all these years. I'll miss you.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to ask staff if they would like to say anything before I do the rest of it. So, Mr. Linwood?
Certainly, I think, I've had the pleasure to work with Councilmember Zerwas for quite a few years now. And, I think he's always been extremely fair. And I think he's always represented the city of Wyoming with the residents' best interests. And I think he's been an asset to the city. And certainly, I think everyone, with all of his experience and everything he brought to the table, he will be missed. So thank you, Joe, for all your public service. It's much appreciated.
You're welcome.
Steve Hoppy. Muted.
All right, there you go. Joe, I just want to congratulate you, because your commitment to community service goes far beyond, just what you've spent here in Wyoming for so many years, but, just as a police chief and giving that service to communities long before that, it's a commitment. I don't think a lot of people realize how much that consumes you. But more importantly, I think as a new chief, when I came in, just your guidance and your leadership, your advice along the way, just very sound and greatly appreciated. And I will say it had a big influence in helping develop me as a leader that I am, just leaning on you for a lot of that past experience before council, but also being as a policymaker. And I'm going to look forward, I'm going to miss not having you part of this group formally, but informally still very influential in my development. And I want to just thank you and tell you how much I appreciate all of that and the honor of working with you in this role for the last 12 years. Thank you, Joe.
You bet.
I'm going to ask Ms. Dumas, did you want to say anything?
Sure. Members Zerwa, 16 years is a really incredible contribution to a community to make of service. And I just want to thank you for that time and commitment and care that you've offered to the city for that time. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Almgeld.
Pardon?
No,
Chuck
Joe,
is-
Chuck, I just want to say thanks because you're always a yes vote for Public Works. I only known you 18 months, but you have so much experience. I can always count on your vote. Thank you.
Joe,
welcome.
did you hear what Chuck said? You're always the yes vote for Public Works.
Yeah, I heard that.
I love that. All right, Mr. Lunan, would you like to say anything?
Yeah, Councilmember Zerwas, in my last 3 years of involvement with the city, it's really been a pleasure to watch you on the council. Your passion for the city, your willingness to ask questions, and to really put the interests of the citizens ahead of what your own personal interests may be is respectable. And I echo that 16 years is a long time of service, and the city of Wyoming is no doubt lucky to have had you for that long. And I hope that you can enjoy your retirement, even though it sounds like Mayor Everson's going to try and drag you back into some form of public service.
Yes.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, and Mr. Erickson.
Thank you, Joel, for everything. Just wanted to remind you that when I started back in 2006 as your city engineer, you were part of the council at that time, obviously, as well, and you've obviously been a huge supporter for the engineering side of things as well, right? And we've certainly made a lot of great contributions to improving the roadways and various infrastructure throughout the community. And certainly your dedication and support for the community and the residents has always been unwavering. And so I just wanted to say thanks for participating and being such a great council member.
Thank you, Mark.
All right, my turn. So I'm going to start with a few facts and figures because we know I'm all about that. So Joe, do you realize that you attended over 400 meetings?
I probably figured that much.
That doesn't include the special meetings. It doesn't include, I don't know, name whatever there is, but council meetings, over 400 council meetings. And that's amazing. And also thanks to Lynn for that as well. So you have survived 3 mayors.
Yes, I have.
Yes, and I have to say on a mayor's note that I am very fortunate to have 6 years, 2 on council and 4 as mayor, to work alongside you, to be at the same table with you, to listen to your words of wisdom. And we haven't always agreed or said the same vote every single motion or policy that came to us. But I know this, and this is true to you. We may not have always agreed, but when that meeting was over, we were friends, and there were no hard feelings, and there were no bad words, and there was no going out in the public and talking bad about each other. And for that, you are a class act, and appreciate all that you have done for this city, what you have done for the residents, what you have done for your family and your friends. And I also want to bring up that your whole life has pretty much been dedicated to public service because you were also chief of police in a different city before you were here in Wyoming. And I can't add up all those years you might have that, but that says a lot as to who you are and to your character. And I know personally and professionally, I'm going to miss you, and the staff is going to miss you as well. And I can't wait until we can get together and have a proper retirement party for you from council. For now, it's going to be hard to see. We do have a plaque. Oh, we're not going to be able to see it real well. Sorry. I'll read it. It says Joe Zerwas, council member 2004 to 2020, presented with our respect and appreciation for your years of service to the city of Wyoming. And again, I couldn't be more proud to be your friend and your colleague the last 6 years. So I really appreciate it. And I'll give you a little bit of time if you'd like to say anything, and maybe a funny story or two, especially on that sewer commission. I'm so glad you took that on.
Well, I had a bunch of stuff to say here, but I'll hold off on that because I think Rob's going to put together something here in the near future that'll be aired. So I just want to say that I worked with a lot of good council people, good mayors, and it's been a long journey, but a good journey. A lot of stuff I had on my bucket list has been progress has been made on it. There's some things that haven't. We can go over that at a different date, but I just want to acknowledge too that the leadership in the city of Wyoming here, our Rob Linwood, our city administrator, he's an excellent leader. You know, I can't say enough about him over the last few years, what he's done. Same goes for our street superintendent, Chuck Almfeld. He's done a great job. Fire Chief Jesse Mulligan, and the excellent leadership of Police Chief Public Safety Director Paul Hoppy. I could talk all night about those guys. They've done a great job. They're dedicated. It makes this job a lot easier for people on council. And with that, I'd just like to say thank you for everybody, all the good things said about me. That makes me feel pretty good. And I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to all. And everybody stay safe and stay away from that COVID.
All right. Well, I think we have to make a motion to approve. What do? We recognize we need to make a motion to say he's done?
No.
I don't want to do that. That just sounds so like ridiculous.
No, not necessary. I think it was just an opportunity for everyone to give some send-offs to Mr. Zerwas and give him a moment to speak, and I think it was well done.
Awesome. All right. We're going to go with council reports. I'll start with Councilmember Zerwas for the last council report. I think there was a sewer meeting in there. Let's hope so we can report on that.
Well, we don't have one scheduled till the 21st, so I don't have a report.
All right. Thank you, Joe, very much for all your time on our committees. Let's go to Member Schilling.
I'd like to thank everybody for watching. I did attend the work council session, and then I did attend the EDA meeting yesterday, and that's actually all I have.
All right, thank you. Member Luger.
I attended the Park Advisory Commission meeting, all of which has been covered in the meeting materials for tonight. But I do want to extend a special welcome to our newest Park Advisory Commission members, Angie Schilling and Heather Vanden Heuvel. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. There's a lot of vowels in there. To the Park Advisory Commission, we're so excited to have them on and have a full commission to really roll up our sleeves and continue the work that we've been doing.
All right, thank you. Member Yeager.
Well, I attended a special meeting on December 3rd, and I want to wish all of you watching a very Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Solstice, and whatever holiday I've managed to forget. There's so many in December, and I wish you all a prosperous and very happy New Year. And that's my report.
All right. So I attended the special meeting as well that everybody's been talking about. I attended the EDA, or Economic Development Authority meeting, the Park Advisory Commission, the Planning Commission, the Minnesota Mayors Association. With just a little FYI on that, in 2021, I will be vice president. In 2022, I will be president, and we will have between 100 to 200 mayors here in our city. So we'll be hosting a mayor's convention. Hopefully COVID won't be around in 2022. And I also attended the toy drive the food drive. And thank you to member Luger who donated. I missed you. I mean, you were there and then I missed you by a few minutes, who donated as well. And I also attended the tree lighting ceremony. I was one of 2 people or 3 people there. So it was a busy couple of weeks and I can't say enough again, how proud I am of our city. Oh, and if anybody gets the peach, feel free to take a look at what's in the peach and put your captions on there if you would like to. So with that, I think everybody's had a chance to talk. So I'm going to go ahead and ask one last time for member Zerwas to make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, for my last regular scheduled meeting, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the the December 15th Wyoming City Council meeting.
Awesome. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a second. So we're just going to do this. On the count of 3, everybody say aye or nay if you want to continue, but here we go. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Aye.
Aye.
All right. Good job, everybody. Happy holidays, and we'll see you all soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.